Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what's referred to as the skills gap, which is a bit like the gender wage gaps. It's a completely made up bit of bullshit fucking propaganda by the globalists to justify and underwrite and sell mass migration. Why do we need in Australia? Why do we need 400,000 to 500,000, most of whom are illiterate peasants? Why do we need these amount of people? Because of the skills shortage. We've got no skills, none. There is no skills in this country at all. We have to import it from the third world peasants in those mud huts. In the middle of Africa are all the world's rocket scientists, engineers, and geniuses, IQ of 10 million apiece. That's where they come. Will they come from other white countries? No, Nazis come from other white countries. We need good illiterate peasants because they are the rocket scientists of today and tomorrow. So, the whole thing is utterly absurd and beyond fantastic. But those are the lies that we're told. Now they're packaged up in, all sorts of propaganda formats. But anyway, I was looking at a series of movies and presentations, short movies that are put out by the federal and state governments, and also other governments around, Western governments, globalist controlled Western governments, where your elected representatives represent the globalists, but not you anymore. And having a look at there are two things here, I guess, is that there is a skill shortage, today they claim, which is of course utterly false. And there's also, they're looking at the jobs of the future. Now, this was probably more interesting to me because they're looking at, people who can program AI and work with AI, that sort of thing, artificial intelligence, but also people who can, split the genome or something in the next round of medical breakthroughs in terms of fighting. Suppose the next generation of COVID or next variation of COVID and these sorts of things. So people who can do all that DNA sequencing and all that sort of shit. So and of course the rocket scientist type people. Now already we've got a situation where we're drastically short of engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, whatever. Even in spite of being supposedly short of those engineers, an engineer, a diversity officer, and a diversity director, and all these people will be paid 2, 3, or in some cases 4 times what a civil engineer is being paid, and yet diversity officers, the only qualification they need is a 2-year gender studies diploma and to hate white people, and to hate white history and hate white society and white culture. And then you've got the job as a diversity officer being paid $500,000 plus a year. Whereas if you're an engineer responsible for building a bridge, you may be only paid $110,000 a year. So even though there's supposed to be an acute shortage of engineers, their pay is actually very low in the relative scheme of things. Now, the executive engineers may be in charge of 100 other engineers. Their pay is not too bad, but there aren't many of those jobs going around. But you look at the diversity directors, every major company, every university, every government department, every quango has a diversity director, and these jobs are very well paid. I don't think there'd be a diversity officer, diversity director anywhere in the country that is being paid less than anything other than the most senior engineering manager on any given project. There was a big project about building a highway with bridges and tunnels and all sorts of things. It's a multi-gazillion dollar project, and the engineer in charge of that, which is a very senior responsible role, there are thousands of workers that you're responsible for, and gazillions of dollars of budget. The guy in charge of that, a straight white male no less, is being paid about 2/3 of what the diversity director of the local university is getting paid. So it gives you some sort of semblance as to where if you're a globalist enabler these days, the gender studies academic and that sort of thing, then you've got one of the best paid jobs in the country or in the Western world right now, and you don't need to be high IQ or particularly diligent or anything. You just need to hate white people and hate white king. That's about the extent of it. Diversity director at a university here with packaged up with all the benefits and the free trips, and we're not talking coach class travel here. We're talking 5-star travel. She'd be on about 600,000 a year, all packaged up. So and has no skills. I mean, she's never had a job really beforehand. She's just been a public service goon stooge flunky, and then get shoehorned into this. So anyway, looking at the future of this is. Again, these sort of movies about the future jobs that are going to pay the best, they're going to be the most in demand, that are going to be the most glamorous, and so on. Now, this is in Australia, of course, the depiction of the people who are going to be working in these jobs of the future, they're nearly all young, nearly all female, and nearly all non-white. Now, in total, I counted up 15% of the people were white. Only 5% were white males, and the rest were young Black and Asian women, black women being in the majority here. So these jobs can't be serious jobs. They must be flunky stooge, passenger type jobs if that's going to be the makeup. But they're depicting as these are glamorous and there's black women in positions of power. So we're going to have a society of great equity in the future and so on. So. But only 5% were men. I don't know if they're all meant to be straight men. They're mostly in background anyway. But 10 to 12% were white women. Again, sort of, they were, wherever they were depicted as being in charge, they were in charge of other white women. But wherever the black women and the brown women were in dominant sort of in charge type positions, they had white women that were subservient to them. So the future is very dystopian, that white people will have almost no supervisory, managerial, in control type positions at all in the future. But certainly when it comes to AI and splicing the genome and whatever. Or as rocket scientists and the like, they're all going to be black women from that. Certainly based on the propaganda. I mean, this is a rather unlikely scenario, unless of course they lower the standards for entry into these roles. To be a rocket scientist, the senior managing rocket scientist of the next project to the moon or Mars or something like that, then maybe those positions will only be allowed for black lesbians. And so in order to justify, sort of backfill the justification, then they have to give them all affirmative action triple PhDs. And so that means they have to get affirmative action junior high school, affirmative action senior high school, affirmative action degree, affirmative action masters, and affirmative action multiple PhDs, then an affirmative action job, then an affirmative action promotion, and on it goes. So that's what the future, certainly based on this propaganda. But the scary thing is that the future they perceive, white people almost have no part in this future, none. If anything, it'll be a minor peripheral role, and your boss will be a black. If you're a straight white male, your boss will be a black lesbian, and that's it, and then which is how it should be, because those fucking damn white fascist Nazis, they have to be put in their damn fucking place. So this is a world of equity and justice where those white Nazis are brought to book for their wickedness. But just looking at this stuff, could you get much more of a fantasia, more of a fantastic, insane, leftist, Marxist utopia of utter insanity? Because that's what it looks like. It doesn't appear to be a practical reality anywhere in sight, and it doesn't bode well for the future. But of course, it's propaganda. When you're bringing out 500,000 brown and black people to the West, in Australia, in this case, in approximately a 12-month period, all under the directing of the globalist. You will do this. But don't we represent the Australian people? If you think that, motherfucker, you'll be out of a job tomorrow. And your kids will be arrested for whatever, and they're going to find 100 kilos of white powder in your Land Rover seconds before the police will. If that's what you want, fine. Let's boogie. Or you do what the fuck we fucking tell you to do. And that is you bring in 500,000 black, brown fucking peasants. Do it and stop arguing. Don't get that look off your face. So that's that's definitely how it's going down at the moment. So and it the sort of examinations of these 500,000 people, or whatever, have many come in any given year, that are between 3 and 5% are productive, ready to work, have needed qualifications of some description, have skills, have functional English, and can sort of plug, more or less plug straight into the economy. Now, when you bring out, 500,000 people, and only 15 to 20,000 are actually of any use, that means you've got 480,000 that are parasite passengers that are going to live off the welfare state, or achieve nothing, or produce nothing, or simply lower the wages of floor cleaners and burger flippers, that are living in existing in a parallel economy anyway, and are mostly owned by offshore interests anyway. So they're bringing in their peasant, their peasant villagers to come and flip the burgers in what is not a sustainable section of the economy anyhow. And that ultimately will have to unfold in rather unfortunate ways. But the people that we're bringing in here to the West, again, being force-fed by the globalists, have no economic benefit at all. And this future that they perceive of of all the the top end programmers and gene splicers and rocket scientists are all going to be black lesbians. It's beyond absurd, but there you go. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.